Hi guys, I'm Daria. I lived in a haunted house. When I tell people that, the most common reaction is, OMG, that is so cool. Well guys, I'm here to tell you why it isn't so. I have a friend, Sarah. We've been joined at the hip since we were little. We studied at school together and even got into the same university. Thing is, this university was in a different city, meaning that we had to move there and settle in before our semester started. Well, given a clear shot at independent freedom, we obviously didn't want to move into the dormitories, so we looked for a small 2-bedroom apartment. There was always something wrong with the apartments that we went to. They were either too expensive or too cheap and shady. Then, all of a sudden, we came across this house. A 2-story old house almost in the centre of the city, but in a quiet district. That was fine, because the rent was barely anything to begin with. We couldn't believe how lucky we were. When Sarah and I were moving in, our neighbours popped over to say hello and introduce themselves. They were really nice people, except one of them was a bit creepy. He smiled at us in a strange way and asked us if there was any special reason for us to be moving into this particular house. We laughed it off, as if it was just some silly little joke. Looking back on it now, I wish we had asked for an explanation. But at the time, we were just so excited to be moving in that we thought nothing of it and just thanked him for the warm welcome. The entrance to the house was in a spot that wasn't visible from the main road. So when we went up to the stairs, we saw for the first time a nice old woman with a paper bag in her hands.
Hello, girls. My name is Miss Thompson. I want to welcome you to our neighbourhood. I've brought you my famous apple crumble for lunch. I guess you're far away from your parents and haven't had time to cook yet.
She was odd, but nice. We thanked her for her kindness and thought of inviting her in for a coffee, since we were heading into our new apartment anyway. But when we turned around, she was already gone. Well, since we had a lot to do, we decided to just ask our neighbours where she lived later on. So, we were finally independent for the first time in our lives. We were ecstatic. The only thing that bothered the both of us was that for the whole time we stayed in that apartment, we never got a good night's sleep. To begin with, we chalked it up to nerves from the move and the difficult semester. And on the bright side, we'd always be greeted by a package of crumble from Miss Thompson on our doorstep. Unfortunately, we were too busy to think about Miss Thompson anymore, and our sleeping problems were growing ever more overwhelming. I'd often wake up from an awful nightmare in a cold, cold sweat. If I went to the kitchen after that for some water, I'd find Sarah there too, looking worse for wear and close to tears. This may sound like something trivial, but if you try it, you'll see that not getting a good night's sleep for a couple of months is an uphill battle, and you're the one losing. What was worse were the hallucinations. Yep, you heard that right. Sarah and I began to hallucinate from the sleep deprivation. Sometimes, one of us would go into an empty room for something, and we were almost able to smell perfume. Neither of us used perfume. I could even feel a cold draft, even when all the windows were closed. One time, I was in the bathroom, and I saw the handle of the door move slightly, as if someone was trying to open it. I yelled, "Sarah, I'm in here!" And then I heard Sarah's voice from her room.
What did you say?
I have never felt that scared before. I was covered in goosebumps. If Sarah was in her room, who was trying to open the door? It took me half an hour to get out of the bathroom that day. I spoke to Sarah about it, and she was terrified too. We decided then and there that we absolutely had to look for a new home. We were unable to sleep, and that just added to our anxiety about the things that were happening to us, especially when we noticed all the other crazy stuff that happened in the house, or thought we did anyway. In the morning, Sarah and I were determined to get some answers. We walked over to the neighbour that greeted us the day we moved in and asked him directly, "Where can we meet Miss Thompson?" He looked at us with a strange expression and answered, There is no one called Miss Thompson in the neighborhood. Why do you ask? We were shocked.
But we met her the first day we came.
You must be mistaken. Miss Thompson used to live in your house, but she died several years ago after getting sick. We miss her around here. She made the best apple crumbles.
We couldn't believe it. When we left his apartment, we were speechless. When we got to our own apartment, we saw it. Another package from Miss Thompson. This time, there was a handwritten note and it said, "Girls, come visit me sometime." At that point, we rushed into the house and packed our things in an absolute total panic. It took us 3 minutes to pack everything we needed. That night, our friends from the dormitory managed to put us up for the night. We slept on a quilt on the floor, but my God, that was the best sleep I'd had in ages. No dreams, visions, sounds, or apparitions. So, guys, if you've ever thought living in a haunted house would be fun or exciting, try to remember everything I've just told you. In real life, things get real and are always more creepy than anything you've seen in the worst horror film. Well, I hope you never have to encounter something like this. But if you do, why don't you tell us about it?